Good afternoon, everybody. This is the January 18th meeting of the Downtown Partnership Finance and Growth Committee. And the first item on our agenda is public comment. Is there any member of the public who wishes to address the group? Seeing and hearing no response, we will move on. Next thing is the approval of our minutes of January 21st. Is there a motion?
I motion.
Move to approve by Mario. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mike. Any comments, corrections?
And I'll abstain.
Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
We have 3 ayes, 1 abstention, and no nays. All right, next item on the agenda is a review of the draft 23-24 budget. Cynthia, I just went down through the details of the budget. You want to walk us through the changes that you've proposed?
Yeah, I think that would be great. I'm going to pull it up on my screen. So Shamim, I know you weren't at the last meeting. I'm trying to think if Mario was here. So if there's something you have a question on, let me know.
The big issue was adjusting for Denise Kegler's leaving the partnership, so that there are 2 issues here. One of them is that the salary of a replacement person accommodating there are 3, accommodating the extra hours that Josh will spend filling in while a placement is found. And then the big one, which is that Denise was covered by her husband's health insurance, and we can't assume that the next incumbent will have that same privilege. So we're going to need to account for some additional health insurance costs.
Do we know where she's going?
She's going to work at Eastern in the School of Business.
Okay.
A much more boring job, but stable, less demanding, and probably pays a little more.
I'm sure.
He has to work with student workers, which I hope will be boring.
It's not boring, interesting and annoying, both.
All right, so as Tony said, I'm going to hit the highlights, which I sent you, which are actually highlighted in yellow. So this was based on the feedback I received from the committee and a couple of other additions from the last meeting. So I did increase the dues line, brought that up by 1,000 each in estimated and proposed to help with our revenue. I'll just keep going unless anybody interrupts me, and not interrupts, if anybody has a question. Legal services, I took that down from my initial proposal of 2,000 to 1,500. We've only spent $160 so far this year with John. He doesn't want me to go below 1,500 though, just in case, something where we need him. So I'm pretty much at the lowest. I think he's comfortable and I'm comfortable going on legal. Okay, so to the point that Tony went over, just under payroll, there will probably be some estimated, some savings. But as Tony noted, we did add 4 hours per week for Josh, at least through March 1st. Josh's pay scale is lower than Denise's was, but I'm just, again, trying to be conservative there. And then for proposed, I've got the amount that we're currently using to advertise for the position. We have about 5 applications received thus far, and I went out to some of my colleagues to post it as well. So I can update you on that, excuse me, after we go through the budget.
Mike, you had a
And then,
question? Mike, you had a question?
I did not, no.
Okay. I heard some sound. I wondered what it was. All right.
so then under health insurance, as Tony noted, Denise was receiving health insurance through her husband, who's a town employee. So Sherry Trahan, interim director of finance, suggested that I include 10,000 in next year's budget and the current budget.
Excuse me a second. Hello? Hello? All right. Not the call I was waiting for. Sorry.
Okay, that's all right. So then event seed money was a new line item, one of the two new line items, to allow us to have more flexibility in terms of raising money, because that takes a lot of staff time. So I cut this from 10,000 to 9,500, and just particularly for our board members that are part of the committee, this will get folded into programs. That's the way Sherry wanted me to put that into the town civic or ClearGov, sorry, budget system. So next time the board sees this, it'll be folded into programs. We did set up a new line item for the management software.
Cynthia,
Yes,
I have a question. When do you actually anticipate buying this package?
July 1st-ish.
Okay, so it will be a full year.
Yes,
Okay. I was
Yeah,
wondering if it could be delayed, but July 1st-ish is far enough away that you will have time to make sure you want it.
yeah, so Josh and I have one more follow-up interview tomorrow, and Josh has done a really good has drafted a memo that Frank Gifford has sort of been involved with some of this with governance, that he'll review, and hopefully we can make a decision.
Okay.
But we've told the vendors that we won't be starting till July. So then I zeroed out contingency as another way to save money. We had typically kept that in there for potential staff increases. So I've balanced the budget with $16 to spare. And just for Shamim's, so Shamim knows, so we did talk about at the last meeting, sort of on a one-time special basis, if we needed to go into fund balance. We have gone into fund balance in the past, but we have not budgeted to go into fund balance. So, we have a healthy fund balance, which is the 355,000. So there was support from the committee to do that, but I've done this without doing that. But that doesn't mean we won't end up going into fund balance. Everything's just a little unclear. Tried to make it as clear as I can with a few unknowns out there. So I think that's pretty much the summary of the changes from the last meeting.
Here's the only problem I see with this budget. There are going to be pay increases in the future, for sure. We know that. That's not one of those things that stops happening. But this budget takes us down to our absolute minimum break-even budget, which means that in order to accommodate future staff increases or additional program money, we're going to have to find more sources of income. Am I right?
Yes, well, we built in a 5% increase, potentially looking at this step schedule that Lee had suggested. So, yeah, and I've been banging that drum for, sustainable funding is an important piece that needs to still be reviewed. The other piece, just to update Shamim too, is that I still need to look at the 40,000 from the town for economic development. And Ryan and I talked about that a couple of months ago. And one of the things is to look at some sort of model for what that looks like over the next couple of years. I I just did not have time to get that done in a thoughtful way for this budget. Now, that's not related to the partnership. So we built in a decent increase for the next year. Fiscal year with the money that I proposed here.
Now, the 40,000 doesn't come out of the 175 that the town gives you, does it?
No,
So it's in addition. I see, right, it's there in addition, yep.
Yep.
All right. We're still squeaking by.
yeah, I mean, it's, I try to be conservative, but yeah, I mean, this is a larger discussion that I think we need to continue to have. We have the Sustainable Funding Working Group. We've raised more money through a lot of Kyle's efforts, from our property owners. Hopefully getting 10,000 each, from them this year, the Oak Tree and, Heart, but a lot of that goes to our events. But the less money that staff needs to raise for events gives us more time to work on the events. And, Kathleen and Josh and I are triaging here for this year because we're already in our events planning season.
Cynthia, I have a quick question, like the empty storefronts,
Yes,
do those, well, I guess it's just the owners are the property owners, so they're already paying the dues, so there's no incentive, right? For someone else, or would we get more money if those buildings were filled?
from them.
Yeah.
We are using some of their money to paint those windows, and I can talk about that briefly. So we have two programs with School of Fine Arts. One is to do a tape mural in the former Wingstop, and the other is to do, I think it's called Tree of Life in the Geno space. And then I just met with a fairly new resident who's an interior designer last week, who's interested in doing painting of some of the available spaces. So that's part of what we have control. Well, we didn't, but we got permission from them to do this. So we just have to make sure we don't cover up like for rent signs and things like that. So we are using some of their funds, some town square funds to do something with the windows. And that was one of the strategic plan tasks. I don't know if that completely answers your question, Shamim, but.
I think I had a different question of just if it was a functioning business, would they have more incentive to chip in more for events? But the dues are being paid by the owners, the building owners, rather
Yes.
than the business owners.
Although there are some businesses who do make contributions.
Yeah. That's right.
Yes, and that's been a struggle somewhat. And as you know, Shamim, from being on the membership committee, we spent a lot of time trying to do that. I think that the main effort that's been going on the last year or so out of the strategic plan is these various socials and networking that the partnership's been doing with the businesses. So we've had 3 so far where we can hear from them about what some of their concerns are. And, we bring membership forms where we're more trying to sort of reestablish some of those relationships with, COVID and new businesses coming in. And I think it's been fairly successful. But I don't think unless we can continue to find ways to provide benefits and tangible benefits, and really make a huge effort to do that. That's again, where is that priority? If we're getting this additional money from the property owners, is it as much a priority to try to get it from the businesses?
Cynthia, I just want to circle back real quick to make sure my own understanding of this, which I was pretty firm on, but now I'm doubting a little bit. So the 40,000 that the town provides for economic development, which, as you said, you think of as being separate and distinct from, the partnership's budget, but this revenue shows up as part of the overall partnership revenue, the 403,000 for the FY '24. And so it shows up as revenue, but the expenses, I guess, associated with that, like staff time, percentages of time, that sort of thing is kind of blended in the expenditure budget in a way that can't really be easily teased out, right? So I guess just to be clear, I mean, it's not that it's separate from the partnership budget, it's that I mean, because it is in there, right? It's hardwired into the department's partnerships budgets. The idea is that the added expenditure associated with the service you provide is essentially supposed to be kind of one-for-one offset with what the town is providing in payment. But I guess I just want to make sure that we're clear that it's not outside the partnership budget. It's part of the partnership budget. It's just the idea is that there's a corresponding offset so that it's not, you know, we're not freeloading, so to speak.
I would
Right,
assume
so-
that the corresponding offset is the percentage of Cynthia's time that's spent on those projects.
Right, but so like, for instance, the staff, the salaries and that sort of thing that show up as an expenditure, the wage lines basically in the partnerships budget, it's, you know, Cynthia doesn't, at least as far as I understand it, maybe I'm wrong. My understanding is that so Cynthia's salary, she's paid a salary, and I say Cynthia, but all her staff are paid a salary. It's not like there's a separate stipend or something layered on top of that for the economic development piece, correct? It's reflected in your base pay?
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, I'm trying to think, Brian, if Mary was here when you were here, I think. So when we added
Yeah.
the admin assistant position, part of that was to help with the economic development. So, you know, Josh's salary right now, I mean, it's not a one-for-one though. It is blended in.
Right.
And as Tony said, my position. I mean, I would say that the event coordinator position doesn't really do any overall economic development work.
Right. But I
Kathleen
guess I thought
does
parts
do
of like
some.
Kathleen's time, maybe, I don't
Yeah,
know.
some of her time, definitely. And we're always trying to balance it too. And part of it is, you know, when you do the whole town, it kind of benefits you know, it is a squiggly line, I guess.
But I'm not, and I don't even want to, I'm leery about asking this question because I think you might interpret this as like foreshadowing something that's not the case. So please don't interpret that way. But if the town's contribution, like if the town essentially, for whatever reason, 1,000 years from now decided that it wanted to have its own municipal economic development department and not partner with the partnership or contract with the partnership for this service, it would be fair to say that your operating expenditures, you know, to take that money out, you wouldn't be able to just reduce your expenditures somewhere cleanly and neatly. You have staff wages that are supported in part by an expectation of those funds, right? So that would be a source of pain for you.
That's accurate.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Any other questions for Cynthia? Cynthia,
Just a comment. Good job.
Yeah.
I know it's not easy.
So this needs to go to the board, so we need a motion to recommend this proposed budget to the board.
I'd make that motion.
I'll second.
Ryan made the motion? Okay, and Mario seconded. All right, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Okay, unanimous recommendation to the board. Thank you.
Great,
And
thank you.
Cynthia. All right, next item on the agenda is the update on the strategic action plan and downtown stores.
Yeah, so I'm just double checking. I looked at this earlier, but don't want to repeat myself on a few of these things. So, with respect to the Webster space, there is activity going on there from the property owners. So they haven't nailed it down yet exactly, but hopefully there will be a new business going into that space.
Which space is that?
The Webster Bank space.
Which is
which is next to the Ballard.
Ah, right, okay.
Um,
Is
Which
that a
was-
similar business or something
different.
something different? You're so careful. I love it.
I'm
20
trying to
questions.
respect negotiations. So, but I also want to show positivity and things moving forward too. So, so I mentioned the design of the available spaces. The other piece that we're working on out of the strategic plan is our street furniture. So we have a contract now with the Yukon Landscape Architecture Program, as our board members know. So they will start their work this month. We have two classes, one group of, I think, juniors and the other group of seniors. So the first class will inventory what we have. So planters, benches, chairs, and the next group will propose what we might want to add to the palette of downtown. So also looking, this is really Sean Vasington, our board member, just trying to be consistent with what things look like downtown. And excuse me, a big piece of this, again, as I may have mentioned before, we'll be looking at shade. You know, when we lost the oak, we lost a lot of shade. The 5 trees around the square have not quite grown the way that we had hoped that they would. So I'm excited about that. It's seems like a great team to work with. We've had a couple of meetings. We will have a meeting with the Promotion Public Spaces Working Group, and then the goal is to bring their recommendations to the May 4th board meeting. I think it's a May 4th board meeting. So right when they're finished with their semester. Again, we'll start planning our events. We may need to, I know already, we're probably going to cut out one movie at the end of August because it's the same day as move in for Yukon and convocation and things like that. So we may do one in October, to be determined. Right now, we're doing the first 3 Fridays in August. And again, it's just, you know, staff resources. We just have to, you know, be careful we're not too overloaded. The other thing is that we are working on the second Taste of Towns Restaurant Week. We haven't done the advertising yet because we're still raising money with sponsors, but that's going very well. Kathleen has solicited restaurants in Mansfield. Right now, we have Gansett Wraps committed, and we have Fenton River and Dog Lane Cafe committed. So it's they have till February 6th, I think. So it'll be February 20th through March 5th. The website's already up if you want to look at it. It's called taste2towns.com, and the 2 is the number 2. I think Andrew with Stone Row Kitchen did a great job with the design of the website. So it's getting better and better. You know, second year, I think we'll just keep improving, and hopefully we'll have even more restaurants. And we are doing, Tony, to some of your concerns expressed earlier, Kathleen is doing kind of a cheat sheet, tips and training to make sure that the coordination between the owners with the staff, so that everybody knows what the specials are and what they're doing. So we're spending time on that. We're also, as one of the benefits for sponsorship, doing a kickoff event at the Graduate Hotel with the chefs and the owners. So that'll be, I think it's that Monday, February 13th, I think. So I'm going over there tomorrow to work on the menu and what we might do. So that's a benefit kind of at the highest 2 levels of sponsorship.
One other thing, Tom DeVivo and I are going to be treating each other to dinner.
Oh, good.
And on the 13th, not the 13th, the 20th, wait a minute, let me go back to February. 2 Fridays, the Friday of the first week and the last Friday of the event.
Oh, that's great. Well, I have to give you and Tom a lot of credit, Tony, because you're the one that kind of started this initiative about trying to do more together, and then with Andrew and me, and then we followed up. So so thank you very much for the collaboration.
Well, I think it's a really important symbolic endeavor, if nothing else. So,
And I want to give credit too to Margaret and Ryan's office too, because she's done a lot of work on this too, the town's communications specialist. I think that's it, unless there's any questions or,
the 13th is a town council night. So when is that? What time of day is that event?
it's going to be earlier. It's going to be around 5, I think, 4 or 5.
Okay. Well, I'll leave it in at 4. All right.
Is we've included the town of Wyndham or the town of Willimantic, right? In our taste of town, so to speak.
Yes. That's
Yeah, so we expanded it, Mario. That's a good
Yep.
question. So last year, it was really the Willimantic Renaissance Downtown Group, and this year it's been expanded to the whole town for
Okay.
Wyndham. It was always the whole town of Mansfield, not just the downtown.
Right. I was just wondering if their committee is helping to promote also, the event, and if so, how? I don't know if it's Yuki.
Oh, well, yes. So they are putting a substantial financial contribution.
Hmm.
We are going to be more in kind because outside of Andrew and Chris, who's with Willimantic Renaissance, we are doing more staff work on the town and partnership, not from Chris, but partnership level than they are. So they're involved in the steering committee, but the financial commitment, the sort of day-to-day details, putting it together is the core group of Andrew from Stone Row, Chris from Willimantic Renaissance, myself, Kathleen, and Margaret. So I felt it was fair that we would be at the highest level, but as an in-kind sponsor due to our staff involvement. And they all agreed.
great.
See, I'm watching out for our budget, Tony.
I can tell. Anything else, Cynthia?
I don't think so.
The next item on the agenda is a motion to adjourn, but before we get there, is there anything else to add to today's discussion? Well, this was quick and easy. Thank you, one and all. And we'll see you at the next board meeting.
Sounds good. Bye, all.
Thank you.
Tony, do you want me to call you on that other issue?
Yes.
Okay.
Don't we still need a motion to adjourn though, or did we
Yes.
just do it
Is
by
there a
consensus?
motion to adjourn?
Uh-oh.
I think everyone has already made a motion out of the
I-
meeting.
Yeah, I
Yes.
can make a motion or something. I had to just accept, I had to receive a return call from somebody I offered the human services director position to, and I'm happy to report
Ooh.
we have a new human services director.
Woo!
Yay,
So,
that's good.
More
That's an
information to
important call.
follow, but it was a call I had to take, so,
Very good news.
all right.
All right. Well, thank you, one and all. So Ryan moved and Shamim moved second.
Okay.
All right.
Have a good evening, all.
Or Mike,
All right.
no, Mike is still here. Mike seconded.
I'm
Sorry.
still here. That's okay.
All right, we'll see you.
Stand adjourned. Thank you.
Yep.
Bye-bye.
Bye.